Welcome to The Creative Present, a show that's dedicated to expanding your creative self-expression and at the same time, getting your projects done. And I'm your host, Joshua Townsend. Sensory input and thoughts and feelings. So this has to do with focus of attention and your ability to focus your attention for short or long periods of time on two things: sensory input and your thoughts and feelings. And I'm saying thoughts and feelings as one because thoughts create feelings and feelings create thoughts. So it's a two-way street. So I can create a thought which will create a feeling, and I can create a feeling which will create a thought when I have a certain focus. The other thing is your sense and sensibilities, the sensory input that you're working from, and how you filter that and how that becomes your art, how that becomes your output in terms of what you share with the world. So that was the third circle of attention, big overview of what we're going to talk about now. So we have our focus of attention, we're being present, we have our focus of attention, and we decided to take in the world. And we're taking in the world through our sensory apparati: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. But it's not neutral. Every single one of those has a certain charge for you personally. And everyone is tuned slightly differently. So some people are highly sound sensitive. And so when they tune into sound, then their ability to take that sensory signal in and to have thoughts and feelings and memories will be very different than someone who takes in the world visually. So someone who takes in the world visually will be more attuned to the visual aspects of what they're seeing as opposed to just the sound. Yeah? So you could say, well, the sight, my sight of, say, a fancy 5-star hotel, right, would be diminished if I heard a jackhammer in the background. Yeah, fair enough. I understand. However, we as human beings tend to be more attuned to one or two of our sensory inputs as opposed to all five. We tend to have one that we favor, and this is one of the ways of looking at it. When you go to a restaurant, let's say you're picking out a restaurant to go to eat that night. Some people will make the selection of what restaurant they're going to go to based on what the restaurant looks like and how they feel in the restaurant itself. So are the tables nice? Is it quiet? Is it romantic? Is it loud? Is it fun? Is it a place for gathering where lots and lots of people come? Is it quiet? Whatever the atmosphere is, whatever the sensory input is. So that's the sensory input of sight, and because of that sight comes the feeling. So is it romantic, or is it a grab and go? Is it on the beach, or is it a cozy little place in the back of some small high-end hotel? So that's this person who's going to go after sight. Someone else who is completely into taste will only, and I mean only, look at, well, what's the quality of the food? What am I going to eat? How good is it? Is it worth going back to? That becomes their primary way of navigating that choice. Some people will be like, well, I want to go someplace where there's music. I want to go someplace where it's really quiet. So those people are going to be more governed by sound. So that's how it shows up in our day-to-day life. It shows up in the same way in our creative life. We all have different sensory ways of approaching our work, which is the most important to us. Once you identify what sensory input you tend to go with, notice it in your work. See how much it shows up. Notice how articulate you are. Notice how much attention you give it. Notice how much it moves the action forward. Then not in that session, but in subsequent sessions, I would like you to take an input, a sensory input, that doesn't necessarily show up that often in your work, and start layering that in so it can be a fuller experience, not only for you, but also for your audience. So that's how we can start working with sensory and sensibilities and thoughts and feelings. Because what happens is that we start to lean on the visual heavily and we leave out the audio, or we lean on the sound, the audio, and we don't really describe it much. So when we can start modulating as we want, as we wish, making sure that all the sensory inputs are there because we're recreating life, once we can start doing that, then we start to appeal to a larger audience, because everyone now is included, right? We're not leaving out the sound people. We're not leaving out the taste people. And once we start to do that, then our work becomes richer and fuller. But I do want you to notice that it all starts with being present and increasing your awareness. The more present you are, the more aware you are. The more aware you are, the more you have the ability to focus your attention. Thank you for listening. If you love what you're listening to, please subscribe and then share with fellow creatives. For more, go to joshuatownsend.com.